battered and bruised. At least that's how I'm coming into episode 177 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy as always. Last episode, not a very good one for me, Brett. Just one win, Blues -1.5. Some gut-wrenching losses, including the Senators +1.5 that should have hit, but it didn't, so it's a loss. And Loyola Chicago losing 63-61 in the opening round of the Battle for Atlantis made that futures bet a quick loss.
Yeah, I guess, Higgins, we gave out the term bad beat on the last episode. You're clearly a believer in the term, maybe, maybe it's there. You were more upset than me on my Thunder loss. I just kind of looked at it and be like, I'll win by the hook next time. But yeah, it happens. Look, Charlotte ends up coming out as dogs, Higgins, a 1.5 dogs. They lose by a lot of points to Drexel in that one, or I'm sorry, Toledo in that one, and then Cornell beats Penn, or I'm sorry, Penn beats Cornell, but not by 15.5. So we get that one right, Higgins. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves come through for me, make me look like a genius. And look, you lose a close one in the Thunder game, lose a close one in the Hurricanes Sharks game, but it is what it is, Higgins. You can't get too down, can't get too high.
Yeah, you gotta take the losses with the wins. You can never ride too high. That's why we want to take our winnings out when we do win and cash them, and then that way we have a bankroll that we can go back to with these losses. Jumping into some beginners boulevard, though, Brett, we're going to talk about the basic term, the number, and that's typically you'll hear someone asking, "Hey, what's the number?" or the number in the USC game or anything like that. And that means they're talking about the spread. What's the spread? They're asking what the number is on the spread, and it can sometimes be confusing because sometimes you might think it's the over under or something like that, but 9 times out of 10 if someone asks you what's the number, it's about the spread.
Yeah, just what is the spread? What is the line? What is the number? So, good term for everyone to know. And if you hear it at Thanksgiving dinner, Higgins, now you know what people are talking about.
Yeah, speaking of Thanksgiving, we got some games going on. 3 NFL games as always. The number in the Bears Lions game is Chicago -3. I don't know anyone that seems too interested in that game, if I'm being honest, Brett. I mean, Matt Nagy's being asked whether or not he's preemptively been fired and is being allowed to coach this game. It doesn't seem like a great situation for either side.
Yeah, gonna be Andy Dalton. Looks like Jared Goff will be starting for the Lions. Could be the Lions' last opportunity for a win this year. You never know, Higgins. So, look, it'll be on TV. Certainly not as excited for this one as the next game we're going to talk about here, Raiders Cowboys. And you and I are both on this one, Higgins.
And we do not agree. And Brett, I'm surprised. I mean, the Cowboys hosting the Raiders on Thanksgiving. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I mean, they're playing fantastic against the spread this season. They've surprised me. I was a hater on them that took the under for wins against them, and I don't think that's going to hit. But they've played competitive against everybody and won a lot of their games. I think they're going to get a win here. The line's at -7.5. Listen, the Raiders are just too dysfunctional of a team for me right now. They have too much going on since Gruden left, since everything that's happened personnel-wise for them. I can't be finding myself back. I can't find myself backing Oakland. Or sorry,
Oakland,
Las Vegas.
wow. Okay.
Las Vegas.
Taking
Wow.
shots. Taking shots. Look, I'm going to be on the Raiders +7.5 here. Dallas's offense has not been very good. 2 of the last 3 weeks, Higgins. I think a big game like this, no Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb seems like he's going to play, so that's good news for Dallas. But, being without 1.5 of your top wide receivers, that's tough. I'm interested to see how Tyron Smith looks if he's back at left tackle for the Cowboys. That's probably the biggest indicator of whether they'll win or not. But either way, a touchdown over a touchdown for the Dallas Cowboys seems like a lot. So give me the Raiders plus 7.5. I'll be on the opposite side on this one, Higgins. I'll be on the side of the book. Everyone in America is going to want to be on the Cowboys. America's team. Thanksgiving Day. I'll take the buck.
Okay, fair enough. We'll be trading some texts. Is this gonna be? This is a 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, so this is gonna be before Thanksgiving dinner for me out here in Oregon. That's a 4:30. Are you on the East Coast? Are you an early Thanksgiving or a late Thanksgiving dinner person?
Oh, we're going to be eating during the Cowboys Raiders game, I'm sure.
Okay, let's move on and talk about some Sunday games, though, Brett, because you and I were also not on that Bill Saints game that's ending out the Thanksgiving NFL games. So, jumping to Sunday, I want to talk about two teams that both played rather well last week, the Bucks and the Colts. But I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to perform as well as he did last week. I mean, that was sensational what we saw from him. And to do that in back-to-back weeks, I don't expect it. I don't think he's going to be able to run against the Bucks like that as well. But we saw Tampa Bay's offense with Rob Gronkowski returning, and Tom Brady is just comfortable when he has Gronk. This line at -3, it's just too small for me. Tom Brady, now that he has Gronk back, the Bucks, they're hitting that next gear. They're gonna get a few wins by at least a score, if not multiple. And I think this is where they're going to start really turning the tide. They got a big win against the Giants that was 20 points. They're going to get another big win against the Colts here, I think.
All right, Higgins. Well, you're buying in on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm buying in on the Miami Dolphins. Must be something in the water in Florida, Higgins. Miami home dogs to Carolina. Carolina has not won a game Cam Newton has started yet, Higgins. Now it's only one game, but I don't know where this respect is coming from. Carolina has been struggling a lot since their 3-0 start, Higgins. This is not the team that started out the year. They are honestly pretty bad. So look, Miami playing better football as of late. Miami's not a team I would be buying with points, but the 2-point home dogs in a game that's, in my opinion, a coin flip, Higgins. I'll take the home team every time in this situation.
And just like the Raiders, you're siding with the book here. 70% of the public is on Carolina -2, which I agree. They have not really performed as well as they are being given credit for. I mean, they're being given a lot of credit. Cam has brought back some waves and attention, it seems. Christian McCaffrey's back, so I understand some of the hype, but we're not seeing results yet.
Yeah, it just seems like they're being given respect, and Miami's actually the team that's playing better.
Yeah, I agree. And Tua coming in has played pretty strong. My eyes, though, Brett, are also shifting all the way to Sunday night now. We got the Cleveland Browns facing off against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night, and this is going to be a very interesting one where Lamar Jackson is most likely going to be back in Baltimore. We don't have proof of that yet, we don't have confirmation, but that's what it seems like. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, they've had plenty of their struggles. I mean, they got a win last week against Detroit. Woohoo, I guess. They struggled terribly against New England 2 weeks ago. Without Odell Beckham Jr., their offense hasn't really been able to do much. They didn't even use him much while he was there. There's been a ton of injuries along the way for this team. Meanwhile, the Ravens, like I said, I think they're getting back Lamar. I think they're going to get back Hollywood too as well. And with this line only being at -4 right now, I'm going to hop on that at -105 value. I think that's pretty good.
All right, yeah, I'm interested to see what happens here because I kind of feel like Cleveland needs to take the ball out of Baker's hands and let him. I don't know if he can really recover from his shoulder injury. I guess the good news to Higgins, right, is not his throwing shoulder, but I think he's more than hurt, right? Like he just doesn't look right out there. The team's struggling. They
The
beat
energy's off.
Yeah, they beat the Broncos with Case Keenum in there. I want to say the bye week is coming up for this team, so
Yes, they
like,
play the Ravens, they have their bye week, and then they play the Ravens again.
yeah, I feel like let Baker get 2 weeks off. I don't know like if that's like even something that's being discussed, but it just it feels like that should that should be happening. I don't know. That's my uninformed take there, Higgins. I think Baker, let Case Keenum start this week.
Okay.
Maybe Baltimore gets Lamar back. I don't know if that even affects the spread, Higgins. If Keenum starts for the Browns, like it's probably about the same. I don't
Yeah.
really think there's a much of a drop off there. So, but that's just my take on the game. Is like I think the Browns take the ball out of Baker's hands for a week.
Yeah, and the fact that Cleveland's playing Baltimore in 2 straight games with their bye in between, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose in Baltimore and then they have 2 weeks to prep and come back focused and they win against the Ravens at Cleveland because Baltimore has to go. They're hosting Cleveland this Sunday night. Then they travel to Pittsburgh and then they go to Cleveland. So they have a little bit of a. And then after they travel to Cleveland, they're traveling to Green Bay. So that right now they have a little AFC North divisional matchups that they have to focus on, but they have a tough little road spurt coming up ahead, so it'll be interesting, Brett. Uh, we typically would be watching some Wednesday Maction right now as you and I are recording, but we don't get that this week. Maction is actually the second half of midweek Maction is moved to Friday because of Thanksgiving, so we don't have Wednesday or Thursday college football, but we do have some Friday and Saturday college football, and it's the last week on the schedule for these teams.
Yeah, there will be the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving, Higgins, which is
Yes, I was wrong.
always a lot
That
of
is on
fun.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so there's some, I guess you could call it midweek college football, but there will be some Thanksgiving college football. But you're, of course, cannot get over the fact that you lived in Nebraska for a small portion of your life. So you have to bet Nebraska football on a Friday.
Yes, and Brett, I'm fading Nebraska football on a Friday, though, because first off, they're hosting the Iowa Hawkeyes, who have had a much stronger season than the Huskers have had this year. And Nebraska's going to be without Adrian Martinez, their starting quarterback. So they're most likely going to have a freshman coming in to get his first start and snaps, really, with the Huskers in what Nebraska's tried to make into a rivalry game. But as far as I know, when I lived in Nebraska, on the red side, it's considered a rivalry game. On the black and yellow side, they laugh at Nebraska. They don't really consider it a rivalry game because Nebraska wasn't good when they were in the Big Ten facing off against Iowa routinely. That was back when they were in the Big Eight. So I'm just fading Nebraska, who's 3-8 on the season. They don't even have a win to get into a bowl eligibility scenario right now. I think it's a pack it up and go home. I don't take the Nebraska finish off strong. Listen, Scott Frost has found a way to lose nearly every single game this year. It's been close. There's been a lot of close ones, but he's found a way to lose nearly all of them. Just taking Iowa on the money line. It's minus 110. It's even odds both sides. I don't get it.
There you go, taking Iowa. Okay, can't hate it, Higgins. I'm kind of with you. Well, Higgins, this weekend we've got the Iron Bowl, and then we've got the game between Ohio State and Michigan. And Higgins, the game is at Michigan, so I understand if you want to take 3 points and slide it off Ohio State, right? But to see Ohio State minus 7.5 in a game they've won for like, I don't know if the number's actually 15, but it feels like 15 straight years, Higgins. That just seems crazy to me. That seems like this number needs to start at 10, and, the sportsbook should be hoping it gets bet up, and, maybe Michigan keep it within 2 scores. But look, I like this Michigan team. I think they run the ball well. I think their quarterback play's been pretty good between McCartney and McNamara. So yeah, I get the respect for Michigan a little bit, but 7.5 just I mean I've seen 15 years of Ohio State beating Michigan.
Yeah, I guess Michigan's the best against the spread in the Big Ten this year. They're 9-2, so they didn't cover against Michigan State, which they were favorites, but they lost outright. So obviously they didn't cover that one. And then they were 20-point favorites over Rutgers, and they only won that game by 7. But Brett, I've faded Ohio State a few times. It worked out for me earlier in the season, but they've been on an absolute roll to finish off this year. I agree with everything you said. For the sake of the pillars, I'm not looking at the spread. If I were to be on this game, though, Brett, minus 300 for the money line sounds like a perfect parlay partner.
Yeah,
Sounds
definitely.
like a good parlay builder.
Definitely a good parlay builder, Higgins. Hopefully, someone can find some value with that. But Higgins, I'll go to a different rivalry game and see if I can pique your interest here. Florida and Florida State, both down right now, but Florida, one of the talent-rich states in the country. These teams always fighting for recruits, fighting for state bragging rights. Higgins, Florida fired their coach this week. You know what I'm doing, Higgins? Hopping on UF. We've had a little bit of a bad trend here. We lost the Va Tech game, although that one was close. Coach was fighting for us, pulling some crazy kicks and going for two, and he made it interesting for me at least. Florida with the interim here. 2.5 point favorites at home against the bad Florida State team. I think Florida gets it done, Higgins. I think they say it was Dan Mullen, it wasn't us, and they get it done here.
The him not us game. So on top of a state rivalry game, we get your beloved fired coach scenario, Brett. You gotta love that. I should have known better. I should have known that you would have found that game. I almost forgot about that till I looked at the rundown today.
There you go. Troy also fired their coach, so by the time we get to Saturday, Higgins, I'll probably be very interested in that Troy football game as well.
Well, Brett, the last college football game I want to talk about is actually kind of the opposite of the fired coach game. This, I guess, is the signed to extension game. I mean, James Franklin kicked off the news with Penn State signing a 10-year extension with the Nittany Lions to be their head coach. So he's staying in Happy Valley. And then, Brett, we don't have the full details, but I did see right before we started recording, Mel Tucker got an extension with Michigan State on Wednesday night as well. That the details may still be getting hammered out or something like that, or we'll find out the details of that. But both of these teams have solidified who they want their head coach to be, or building off of the programs that have shown up rather well this year. And Brett, I've backed Penn State a few times this year. I've backed them when maybe not most people would. I'm siding with the public though slightly here because Penn State has nearly 60% of the public's betting right now. Penn State minus 1.5. It started as a pick where I thought the team was going to be backing James Franklin, who just got the big contract extension. But now that Mel Tucker also got one, man, this is going to be a really fun game. This is going to be an interesting one on Saturday, Brett, and it's a great It's a great, great matchup in the Big Ten as well. You're talking about another one with that Ohio State Michigan one, but Penn State Michigan State's going to be a great game as well.
Yeah, rumors had been circulating that Mel Tucker had been offered an extension, and there are some big job openings this year, Higgins. So we may have been trying to hold off a little bit, and then that Ohio State game happened, and he may have ran home and signed that thing. So, look, no hate at all. Get your money, coach. You well deserved. And same to James Franklin, right? Penn State. I don't know how happy or upset they are with how this season went, but you got to look at the program. You got to look at the job openings out there, and you got to say, Higgins, oh shoot, we can't lose this guy to a bigger program. So, good for these schools locking up their guys. They got good coaches. Teams are competitive week in and week out. So, yeah, you like to see this stuff.
Sometimes it's similar to like when you and I talk about the NFL draft, and it doesn't necessarily matter what number you're picking the guy at. If that's your guy, go get your guy. And maybe the results might not be as strong as you would have liked, but if you believe this is your guy and he's building something in with your program, then absolutely go out and make sure that you solidify him with these multiple Power 5 offerings that are available right now. There's some big jobs that are available in college football. It's going to be very interesting over the next month.
Yeah, lots of good jobs out there. Higgins, LSU, USC, Florida, Washington, TCU. I think Washington State. So lots of job openings out there in the Power Five. Tech, I didn't say. Miami just fired their AD, so they still have a football coach, but it seems like a new AD might want to bring in a new football coach as well.
I'll be interested to see which is the first chip to fall and how quickly that sends the rest of the dominoes crashing behind it. Brett, shifting into some college basketball, I mean, we talked about the battle for Atlantis a little bit at the top with the Loyola Chicago bet that I had losing 63-61 to Michigan State. Very good game in Las Vegas to start off the tournament. There's been some fantastic games already on Wednesday. There's some more that are going on Thursday and Friday. We don't really have most of our lines though, Brett, because these are some holiday tournaments. So some of these games aren't even officially matched up or paired up yet. So we don't have lines. That's why you really got to follow us on social media at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel because we post picks as well as the ones that we give out in our podcast. So maybe we'll have some college basketball picks on Thanksgiving as well, or maybe into the weekend, right, Brett?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. Lots of good college basketball happening with all these, whatever you want to call them. I call them holiday tournaments, but I guess some people call them like preseason tournaments. So it's a lot of fun, Higgins.
A lot of fun indeed. And sticking with the college basketball theme, Brett, let's talk about Moneyline Magic. And we hinted at the battle for Atlantis last episode and how tough some of these opening round games were going to be. I mean, once again, Michigan State, Loyola Chicago was a 63-61 game. And then UConn, Auburn, well, they kind of messed up the TV schedules for some of these later games.
Yeah, Higgins, I guess that's what double overtime does, but UConn, number 22 in the country, Auburn, number 19 in the country, they put on a show. It was back and forth the whole way, Higgins. A late three by Tyler Poley puts UConn up, and then the best player of the game for Auburn was Katie Johnson. He responds with a circus layup, and that sent us over into overtime, Higgins. And look, it stayed back and forth in the first one, But then you had the 9-0 run for UConn to kind of put this one away in the second overtime. Higgins, we saw 30 points from Sonogo. He led the way from UConn. Tyler Pauley hit the huge three at the end of regulation. He had 24 off the bench for UConn, 6 of 9 from 3. Higgins, he shot better than the entire Syracuse team.
Well, speaking of the entire Syracuse team, Brett, because UConn, they would end up going out and winning this in double overtime, 115 to 109, in a glorious fashion. And as I was waiting for the next game broadcast to begin, I was listening to the closing of that broadcast, and Brett, they mentioned how UConn played in a similar overtime thriller against Syracuse a few years back, and this was the most points that UConn's men's basketball team had scored in a game since that six overtime thriller against Syracuse.
Wow. Well, that's unbelievable, actually, Higgins. So good for UConn finally scoring a few points there. I mentioned UConn standout. Auburn's best player, Katie Johnson. He hit the huge layup at the end of regulation for Auburn. Higgins, and was their leading scorer in overtime as well. He's a Georgia transfer, playing really well for Auburn. And then their top freshman, Jabari Smith, had 22. So look, tons of offense in this game. RJ Cole came alive a little bit for UConn in this one as well. Shot 50% from three. Yeah, I think this is a good sign for UConn. It's going to be good for Coach Hurley up there to get some wins. And I think the other Coach Hurley in Arizona State are playing right now, Higgins. So busy weekend for the Hurley family.
Yes, and UConn now faces off against Michigan State in the next round for the Battle for Atlantis tournament. And Baylor is looking to wrap up a win right now as we're recording, but they're going to end up facing off against VCU because Syracuse lost on the other side of that bracket, Brett. So it's an interesting weekend of college basketball. I'm definitely entertained by the Battle for Atlantis, though. Absolutely fantastic basketball tournament.
Yeah, the Maui, all good. There's a good one in Brooklyn as well. Iowa State beats Xavier in that one to get to 5-0. So lots of fun basketball to keep our eye on during Thanksgiving weekend.
Absolutely. And Brett, just real quick before we hop out of college basketball, did you by chance catch Gonzaga versus UCLA on Tuesday night? It was not a close game in any fashion, but Dickie V was on the call, so that was amazing to have him back. And really, it was a lot of people's first real glimpse at Chet Holmgren, the freshman 7-footer for Gonzaga. And that kid's got handles for a 7-footer. He's got some real talent.
Yeah, look, there's a reason a lot of people think he's the number one pick. The kid from Duke, Banchero, also potential number one pick. Pat Baldwin at Milwaukee, potential number one pick. So there's a few guys that are going to be competing this year, but um, look, Gonzaga was dominant in that game. They left no doubt who the best team in the country is, leaving the floor that night, and yeah, Chet Holmgren block shots, affects a lot of shots, makes people alter their shot, even on the ones he doesn't get. So he's good defensively and obviously can shoot a little bit, has some inside game as well. He needs to put on some weight, Higgins. He's a twig, but, he's so young, you're not too worried about that at this point.
If you didn't see Gonzaga on Tuesday, they played Duke on Friday in another top five matchup. Gonzaga really scheduling some tough competition in early season basketball for them. But Brett, real quick, because I saw this on Twitter as well. Chet Holmgren is the only Division One player in the last 25 years to score more than 60 points, have more than 15 assists, more than 15 block shots, shoot 70% from the field, and shoot 70% from the line over any 5-game span. And he did that in his first 5 games.
That's pretty good, Higgins. Look, he's a talented player. We will be talking about him a lot this season.
For sure. Jumping out of college basketball, Brett, very similar story for the NBA. I mean, there's no Thursday games. We don't have any Friday lines listed for the. There's a loaded slate of games on Friday. We just don't have any lines out for them yet. So again, you're gonna have to check out our social media pages for those picks because I'll probably have some NBA picks on Friday, but I mean, we have no lines to talk about right now.
Yeah, nothing to talk about right now, Higgins, but they've got a few days to figure it out. There's a lot of games going on Wednesday night, which is why we don't have some lines, I'm sure. But been a great NBA season. Been very interesting. There was the whole LeBron Isaiah Stewart thing,
Yeah.
which was very interesting as well, Higgins. So look, we've had a lot of storylines. We've seen the new ball affect some guys. We've seen CJ McCollum save the Portland Trailblazers one night this week. So it's been good, Higgins. I'm enjoying the NBA season, and I'm still gonna ride this Paul George. I don't know if I can fully get on the Paul George is going to win the MVP train, but Paul George is going to deserve to be in the top three of the MVP. He's doing everything for the Clippers, playing really well night in and night out, and I think that's my biggest storyline of the year so far. Is look at Paul George having a career year for a team without its true number one. He's stepped up and filled in really nicely.
And he made a massive three-pointer on Tuesday night with zero point 0.1 seconds left on the clock. He drained a corner three that sent the game against the Mavericks to overtime. Now, Dallas would end up still winning that game, but Brett, I was tweeting about it because I had taken a player prop that Reggie Jackson, Paul George, and Kristaps Porzingis each scored 25 points in that game because at the time when I placed that, Luka hadn't been announced to be playing yet. He was still a game time decision, and it looked like he was going to be out. So I was like, oh, Kristaps Porzingis is probably going to have a bigger game than if Luka's going to be out. He had 24 points, and thanks to Paul George sending the game to overtime, that plus 3,300 player prop hit. But Brett, player props are interesting right now in the NBA. There's some streaky players that are either hot or ice cold, and then there are some players like Steph Curry that you cannot find value on because that man is just a straight bucket. Right now, at least in Oregon, if you want to take a like three-pointer prop on him, it's set at like 6 3-pointers in a game. 7 3-pointers is like plus 150. There's just no value there.
Yeah, he's the reason you're not betting Paul George to win MVP, Higgins. That you named it right there. But I see you got an NHL pick for us on Friday, so let's hop over there because even though it's not in my Rangers Bruins game, I'm still interested to hear what you have to say about the NHL.
Yes, I'm taking a look at the Hurricanes Flyers game on Friday because just like the NBA, the NHL does not have any games on Thursday, so we're looking at Friday's games. Luckily, though, I got some lines for that, at least out here in Oregon, and I'm thinking maybe some players are going to be moving a little bit slower after their Thanksgiving meals on Thursday. Philadelphia, these players are absolutely having big Thanksgiving meals. They're about to go on a massive road trip for Philadelphia. So I'm going to be looking at this over under, which is sitting at 6 right now. And it's even odds either side at minus 110 for an over or the under. And I'm going to take the under. We saw Carter Hart have a tough time, did not have a lot of support from the Philadelphia defense against the Lightning the other night. But if it wasn't for Carter Hart, that 4-0 game by the Lightning would have probably been 7-0. Like the Flyers did not show up except for in the net. And Carter Hart is going to be the lifeblood of this team. I think Flyers offensively might show up a little bit more. The defense will wake up, and I think everyone's going to be moving a little bit slower on Friday. 6 sounds a little too high for me.
All right, take the under in the Carolina Flyers game, according to Higgins.
Absolutely. And Brett, real quick, the baseball's news is starting to leak out in the winter. I mean, Noah Syndergaard signed with the Angels. Shortly after, we saw other tweets of another Mets pitcher of Stroman to Anaheim. Angels fans, at least out here on the West Coast, trying to petition for a trade to get another pitcher. Are the Angels trying to make a push to go all in? I mean, it looked like they tried to do that with Rendon when they brought the bat in. They've needed pitching, though. That has been the crutch of that team, is they've needed pitching for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Angels would be in on pitchers. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know if that's where Stroman ends up, but look, they should be in on Gossman. They should be in on Ray. So yeah, I would imagine they're in on all these guys.
Absolutely. And Brett, let's talk about our Levy Lock pick of the pod. Now, we both lost last episode, so I guess I carry the honors into this episode again. And Tom Brady, just like I said, he looked comfortable with Gronk back and returning. He likes to have that security blanket of his tight end. We know it. He loves to have his tight ends to dump down to when he needs to. Bucks played really well against the Giants. Not that they needed to get that 20-point win. The Giants didn't look that great. However, I think the Bucks are really coming into their own. They're going to carry that into this week, and they're going to get a big win in Indianapolis. Bucks -3. That line just feels too small right now.
All right, Bucks -3 feels too small. Well, I'm going the other way, Higgins. Cowboys -7.5 feels way too big the way they've played the last 3 weeks here. So give me the Raiders and the points on Thanksgiving Day in Dallas. Look, people want to be on the Cowboys, Higgins. It's Thanksgiving Day. It's Dallas. We get Dallas every year. We get Detroit every year, but people generally think of Detroit as a bad team. Dallas is a pretty good team. They think Dallas is the home team that wins on Thanksgiving. That could happen, but they could win by a touchdown, Higgins, and I still win my bet. That's the nice thing about the 7.5 here with the Raiders.
Now, I can't agree with you there because, as we know from the top of the episode, I'm on the Cowboys -7.5.
Well, I'm
As a
sorry.
Giants fan, it's hard to say.
You already started 0-1 on the episode, and we haven't even kicked off yet. That's brutal.
Well, we'll see about that on Thanksgiving. Sure, we'll have some texts going back and forth during that game for sure.
Dang, I can't believe you lost before we even got out of here. That's top.
I did not lose. I think you're the one that's already giving up your Levy Lock, sir. I think that's what's happening.
Oh man, one loss already for Higgins. That's brutal.
Make sure to follow us on social media at NBBpod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. We'll have some picks out between now and our next episode. That'll be on Monday. For Brett, I'm Jake. This has been episode 177 of the Next Best Bet. We'll talk to you later.